All right, so first thing I want to do is make sure that we understand different types of quadrilaterals. What is the prefix of quadrilateral? Quad. And what does quad mean? It means four. Good. So types of quadrilaterals. These are all the main types of quadrilaterals. So we have trapezoid. Trapezoid is the one that I feel like kids always have trouble with. Basically, it has one set of parallel sides. And a traditional trapezoid we usually think of like that one where it's got like two slanted sides, but it doesn't have to do that. It just has to have one set of parallel. The next one's a parallelogram, which I'm always like, okay, this is parallel. It has two sets of parallel sides. And in the video, it said that if you want to show sides are parallel, you'll see either little carrots like that, or they were talking about triangles. And I've seen it both ways. But basically, if you have two of them, that's setting those two. If you have one going this way, one going this way, you could do that, and that would show you which sides are parallel. Okay. Next one is a parallelogram with congruent sides. That's what we call it a rhombus. A rhombus is basically like a square, except it doesn't have 90-degree angles. Then you have rectangles. Rectangles basically are parallelograms, but they have to have right angles. A square is basically a rhombus, but it also has to have 90-degree angles. And then there's the kite. And the kite is a quadrilateral that has two pairs of consecutive congruent sides. And consecutive means back to back, right next to each other. So that's this side and this side would be consecutive. And notice they put these marks right here. I mean, right, I hurt my knee this weekend, and so it's really wobbly. All right, and then the second one is the bottom one. And that's this one and this one. And those are congruent, and they'll put little tick marks there. Okay? Does that make sense? Have you guys seen all that before? No, so that's all new. Okay, what about those vocabulary words? Are those familiar or non-familiar? Somewhat familiar? Okay, I just kind of need to know how much I need to go over. Do everything but a rectangle? Is that what you said? You know rectangle. Oh, that's good.
I know the rectangle.
All right, so when we're classifying shapes, okay, so again, a lot of these can have different names. So polygons is like when I talked about the universe. Remember we talked about rational and irrational? Everything falls under polygons. And then within polygons, we have quadrilaterals. So I put two different diagrams here. So if I call something a trapezoid, it still falls under quadrilateral. Okay? If I call something a parallelogram, it's also a quadrilateral. If I have a kite, it's also a quadrilateral. Trapezoids, that's pretty much all they can be called, because trapezoids have one set of parallel sides. But parallelograms, there's lots of different types of parallelograms. All of these in here are also types of parallelograms, because parallelograms just have to have two sets of parallel sides. Well, if I look at a square has a set of parallel here and has a set of parallel here. So it could also be called a parallelogram. Rectangles, okay? Rectangles just have to have two sets of sides that are parallel and 90 degrees. So squares are also rectangles, are also parallelograms, are also quadrilaterals. It's just like when we talked about rational numbers and irrational numbers. And remember I said there's lots of names for where I live. I live in a neighborhood. I also live in Parkville. I also live in the state of Missouri. I also live in the United States. I have lots of names for where I live. Okay, squares are technically rectangles that are parallelograms that are also quadrilaterals. They all fall in that category. And so that's why I like these two diagrams, so that you can kind of see the different categories they fall in. Okay, like right here. A square can be considered a rectangle, which can also be considered a rhombus. Its most specific name is square, but it still falls in all those other categories too. Okay, all right, next one. A lot of vocabulary today. Okay, I wanted to make sure you knew the difference between parallel and perpendicular. Okay, so I found this little thing. It says parallel lines have so much in common, it's a shame that they'll never meet. I thought it was kind of funny. Okay, so parallel lines, two lines that never meet. We heard this before? Okay. All right, have you heard perpendicular? Yes. So what's perpendicular do? Intersecting lines at 90 degrees. Okay, so perpendicular lines which meet or cross at 90-degree angles. And then there's always going to be the right angle box where it's going to tell you 90, but usually it's the right angle box. All right, so if they say something is a regular shape, so this goes back to that first video we watched where it was talking about octagons, and he's like, yeah, I drew you this 8-sided shape, and what she really wanted was one that looked like a stop sign. So if I say a regular octagon, then that is all the sides are equal, and this would be a regular octagon. So each side of these would be the exact same length, okay? And those are all the traditional shapes that we see. Okay, so all of those are regular. Okay, if you look at the next slide, okay, here's the difference between regular and irregular. Okay, so if I'm looking at irregular, that's like what they were showing in the video. So if I look at really triangle is a triangle no matter what, but if you look at the next one, how about a pentagon? A pentagon, that's how we normally see it, is regular, but a pentagon is also that one on the right-hand side. That is an irregular pentagon. It means that has 5 sides. Okay, if you see a hexagon, it has how many sides? 6 sides. So you have a regular and an irregular. An octagon has 8, just like an octopus, good, and so it has 8 sides, regular and irregular. All right, so we're going to start to draw a little bit here, like I showed you that one where they had some that we're going to draw today. So this says draw a quadrilateral. So quadrilateral has how many sides? 4 sides. And it has exactly 1 pair of perpendicular sides. So what was perpendicular? At 90, good. Okay, so what I want you to do right now is I want you to try to draw a quadrilateral that has exactly 1 pair of perpendicular sides. And then the next one says 2 pairs of parallel sides and no right angles. So I want you to try to draw something there, and then we'll discuss it. Okay, so as I was walking around, you guys are kind of all over the place. So let's start with quadrilateral has how many sides? 4. So it has to be a 4-sided object. And some of you had like open objects. So 4 sides, it has to have something like that. Like you have to have a closed figure with 4 sides. Okay? What was the second thing we had to have on here? Exactly 1 pair of perpendicular sides. Okay? So then I also have to make sure that it basically has a 90-degree angle in it. Okay? And it can only have 1 90-degree angle in it, but I have to have 4 sides. So how many sides do I have right now? 2. So I need 2 more sides. I need to make it closed. So maybe I go like this. Okay. I have 4 sides. Okay. I have 1 pair of perpendicular sides. So there's 1 perpendicular. Okay. Is there tons of different ways to draw this? Yeah. Of course. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways. So that's just one example. Okay. All right. Next one. This second one's a little bit easier. Okay. 2 pairs of parallel sides and no right angles. What should this one look like? See? A trapezoid can only have 1 set. So good try. Isabel? A parallelogram. Okay? So it can be any length or size you want, but you're going to have 2 sets of parallels. So maybe there's a set, and I can put the little arrows like that. And then I could draw a set here. Shorter. And here. Okay? So it could look like that. You can turn it going any which direction you want it to go. You just have to have 2 sets. Yes? Okay, what do the arrows mean? That they're parallel. Did I have any parallel lines on my other one? So that's why I don't have them on the other one. Okay? There. Yes, you would need those on your drawing. Yep. Yes, you would need it. Because obviously mine does not look parallel. But if I put the arrows, then that means now they are parallel no matter how horrible a drawer I am. Okay? All right, let's try another one. All right, this time again, you try to sketch a quadrilateral with exactly 1 pair of parallel sides. See if you can do that one. Okay, this is one of those times where I wish I had that land school because I could pull up every single one of your screens and I could show you all the different drawings you guys have. So exactly one pair of parallel sides would basically mean it's a trapezoid. So you would have something that looks like that, and this side would be parallel with this side. But there's so many different ways you could draw this. You could draw like a right trapezoid. Like it could, this is also a trapezoid right here. So because this one and this one. So anything that has just one set, your other two can be doing whatever you want them to do. And I saw a lot of that when I walked around. Questions on how to draw those? Okay, so we're going to do some whiteboard practice. So people in the front get supplies. The next two slides are whiteboard practice, and they're kind of small, so you're probably going to want it on your screen.